What's going on, YouTube? How's everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing great as usual. Guys, I missed you guys, man. I really, truly did. Um, Man, I've been enjoying the comments, man. It's been a definitely a battle with my last few videos with you guys. You guys are going to war. It's interesting. It's super, super interesting to see what everyone thinks when it comes to these two TVs. TVs in general. There's just even been a lot of talk about the Bravia 9 in the comments, the TCLs, the high senses, mini LEDs, everything. And I got to tell you guys, I think that it feels like for 2024, although it was a super interesting year for TVs, it wasn't the most advanced. I feel like it kind of took a step backwards, and for some odd reason, mini LED kind of took the stage for like half the year. And I guess they just kind of really pushed with the advertising. Um, but I feel like 2023 was actually a much better year for TVs than it was for 2024. It was more entertaining. It was more streamlined. Um, it was more of a push for a better, and it was just more colorful. And to me, there were more advancements than they were this year. I feel like this year was kind of like hit like you know. A plateau or something in a sense. The only true credit I give is the S95D, how bright and colorful it can get. I just wish that it kind of stayed brighter for longer. And then the LG G4 with its really amazing clarity and fine detail and processing. I honestly didn't think a TV can do any better than the Sony A95L, which I also own, which is still my favorite TV, hands down, because it's really the best of all worlds when it comes to TVs, in my personal opinion. I have these TVs, I live with them, and I will tell you guys, still, the A95L is my favorite TV. Um, you know, the G4 can definitely smash it in detail and clarity. Um, and when I say smash, I mean by good, like, 10%, if that, 12, just enough to really make a difference. Um, but when you're talking in small increments, that's actually a big difference when it comes to things like fine details and things like that. I want to talk about the S90D. I want to talk about the LG G4 because, as you guys can clearly see, I have the Spears and Munsell 4K disc. Um, and Man, I gotta tell you guys, the S90D is extremely impressive. Like it it can hang, guys. It really, really can. Um, and yes, it does have its shortcomings. It really does. And I will get to that. But as you guys can see, I'm gonna let this play and just let it roll while I talk. Um, Look at how amazing the S90D can hang with a higher tier TV. I mean, the details are still there in scenes like this. I think again, when it comes to the fine details, you will definitely see the G4 pull through. It just has that hyper focus to make fine details, hard details to pop out, and it does it very well. But scenes like this, where it doesn't require too many fine details, you got more distance between you and the foreground and the camera. Landscape scenes, they're gonna look exactly the same, and then you're gonna get more color out of the S90D, hands down, and at very much so. A lot of times you're gonna get like some sharpness, more sharpness out of the S90D than you actually will out of the G4. It's crazy, especially in games. I noticed in anything that's HDR related, they do trade blows when it comes to certain things like sharpness and clarity and things like that. Um, Color gradation, obviously, QD OLED, definitely you see the difference, especially in the oranges, especially in the yellows. You definitely see more gradients within colors, especially within purples, those aquatic or like aqua blue colors and things like that. Colors like that. you see more gradation. I will say green for me personally looks better on the LG G4 when you're looking at trees, plants. Like let's say you have a drone flying in the air looking down at trees and grass and landscapes with in broad daylight, the sun beaming down. I would say that a lot of the times the LG G4 definitely looks better with the greens. Um, it's times where like green will look more of a nature green, but still have a lot of color and a lot of pop to them, which I really appreciate over the S90D. Now, I have a feeling that when you are comparing the G4 to the S90D, you're talking a whole different ball game there. But for a good 80% of the time, guys, the S90D can hang and if not look better. Like in this scene right here, like look at how crazy the S90D looks, how much more vibrant it looks, how much more uh, pop it has to the color. It just attracts the eye a lot more. The exposure you might see kind of make it look a little bit different, but I'm telling you, when you have these two TVs side by side, the S90D is absolutely crushing it, and you're paying a lot less. Now, I'm going to stop it here at this scene, all right? Because I want to talk about color. Now, there are going to be times where the W OLED will certainly beat the S90D in certain colors. Like, and this is one of the colors that I gotta say, sometimes I notice when, and I had to pause it, is where the G4 just does look better. And what I mean by that is you have to really create your own settings to notice this. But let's say if you just use like the regular out the box settings, filmmaker mode, which if you're going for accuracy and things like that, things will look dull, will look flat, just look pointless. I'm not a fan of that. I'm personally not a fan of that at all. Um, there are a lot of people out there that are purists and will beg to differ and don't agree with that. They agree with like the standard reference, which is fine. That's why those out the box preset picture settings are designed for, to look like they are coming out the box more accurate. And that's fine. And I will show you guys the difference here. So like here, we have the LG G4 in the 77-inch to the left. We have the Samsung S90D 77-inch to the right, right? Um, these are like my own personal settings here. And you really have to push W OLED to get certain colors to look better. And one of them is orange. And you can actually, there is a way where not only can you make the orange have more orange in it, as you can see in the G4, but it still provides more detail and more contrast and more fine detail. Like this is a macro shot, as you can see, a very close-up shot, and you can see that the LG G4 has more contrast, it has more color, and it has more detail. So even though a W OLED is an older technology, you have to give credit when credit is due. And one thing that LG has done with that A11 processor is they were able to maximize fine details even more in older technology. And guys, I don't care what you guys think, if it's like a bad thing or whatever. I agree. I think that that LG should really just um, dump or dump a lot of their money, or let's say take a lot of their funding out of WOLED technology and start funding it into QD OLED or something that's going to be um, game changing and compatible, and or if not even beat QD OLED next level thing, because at that point we all win. But just do something, because I think for the most part we all know QD OLED is the progressing future of higher end premium TVs, and it is beautiful. But because of the LG GeForce processing, you can get a lot of color, as you can see right there. So if you go to your settings, and then we gotta wait. Another thing I'm not a fan of with the UI system on the LG is that it is slow. So as you can see, I kind of created my own under standard. And now if you go back to Filmmaker, you're going to see it's kind of like gotten washed out. And then I'll go back to my settings. You can see there's like more color. Now, again, I am not this person who like needs the most orange or most pure pink that you can possibly get. I'm not like this completely just I want all color type of person. I like color, but I don't like to be overbearing. So I'm like somewhere in between. But I will tell you that you can make your TV look better according to what you personally like. You have to spend a lot of time with it, and that's it. So I can't tell you how to do it. Um, because you might have a completely different preference than me, and vice versa. So I'll show you here on. I'm on movie calibrated, and then I'm sorry, let's go back up. Um, and filmmaker mode is right there. So that's filmmaker mode. And then if I go up to mine, that's kind of what I turned mine into a little bit right there. I like where I still have color separation. I still have contrast. And it's just, I think the LG G4 obviously can manage fine details a little bit better. But guys, like, think about it, look how close they are. And then for the most part, you're gonna know, especially if you're like a color person, just go with the S90D, because the S90D will definitely help you get into that QD OLED space for all the money in the world. That's worth it. Every penny is worth it. Now, as far as like the build quality goes, um, not the biggest fan of the S90D. I'm not a big fan of the stand. I think it's really, really cheap, and it feels like dollar store bendable plastic. That base that covers the feet. Not a big fan of that. But again, guys, that's what you get when you pay less. It's still worth every penny because of the experience that you get with watching the TV. You got to remember, with the stand, it's kind of like a set it and forget it thing. As long as it works, you don't really care. You're really more concerned about the performance of the TV. So the one thing I will say that I regret about the S90D is I felt the same way when I bought a B3 and I used to just really buy C series LGs. Um, you definitely notice the downgrades. So, like, if you're a person who, let's say, purchased or a premium TV, and then you're 3 years later, you're going to purchase another TV, but you didn't want to spend as much as you did on your premium higher level TV. So the problem is that like you're gonna regret it in a sense, because you've been so spoiled by that tier that you notice the difference. You really, really do. So that's one of the points that I wanted to make there. But other than that, if you're, let's say you're even thinking deciding between a C class and an S90D. I mean, I personally would rather go with the Samsung S90D because it has color, its HDR is really, really good, um, and its gaming is phenomenal. What you get for the money, guys, 100% worth it in my opinion. Um, but to my next point is the SDR. If, like, for example, like the problem with the S90D is in SDR. So like in SDR, I just feel like it doesn't handle motion as good. It's more dim, noticeably dim. I think because of the A11 processor, SDR can be pushed a little bit further. Than the S90D. Again, we're comparing it to the S90D, so I think, when the S95D is a different ball game. But one thing I noticed is when I was watching the Berlanga, I'm a big fight fan, boxing fan. So I was watching an interview with Berlanga and his upcoming fight against Canelo. And I had both TVs on, and I was streaming it, watching it on YouTube. Um, and it was low bitrate content SDR. So like I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm like, I can't watch it on the S90D. The motion is just like making my eyes all like kind of like making me either like squint or feel like lost or shaky. The motion was just not as smooth as it was on the G4. Just it felt like there was more artifacts, and all he was doing was just sitting there and talking, um, basically on a podcast and just sitting there talking. He wasn't moving that much. Once in a while, he'll move his head when he talks, his arms and things like that. And that's when I noticed like the motion. I couldn't even watch it on the S90D. I just kept my eyes on the LG G4 because it just looked smoother and easier to watch, like not as stressful on your eyes. So I noticed that myself as well. So, I don't know if that's something that you would notice, but it's something I noticed because the two TVs were right next to each other. Maybe you don't notice it when the TVs are alone. You know, um, I mean, I haven't really like done that kind of test before because I mostly just watch 99% of the stuff is HDR. So, I don't know, but I'll maybe like look into it a little bit more. But I don't know, guys. That's all I really wanted to talk about. I hope you appreciated the video. I really appreciate your support, guys. And I can't wait till 2025. I really can't. I really can't. I think this year was a little bit of a dud. It was kind of boring. Not as much hype. It wasn't as exciting to watch um, any TV really. But it still was a very interesting year with technology because it's like it was kind of like that in between year where they're really going to start making changes sooner than later. And you can see that. But again, we'll see what next year brings us. I'm hoping that what Sony did was took a year off of the QD OLED because they're making a new processor, and then for 2025 they'll have a brand new processor with a brand new QD OLED and just kill it. And that's what I was thinking that might happen. How cool would that be? Or would you guys think that would be if Sony did that? Let me know in the comments. But anyways, guys, thank you for all your support, and I will see you on the next one.